After saving up a 20% down payment, we recently bought a home with a 7.8% interest rate. We had been setting aside all extra cash flow to build up our down payment. Now that we're in the house, I'm debating what to do with that excess cash flow of roughly $6,000 per month. I was planning on put all of it in my taxable brokerage account, but considering the high interest rate, should I overpay my mortgage instead? Wow, what a great position to be in, to be maxing out everything. And, and presumably they didn't mention student loans. So presumably the student loans are gone, and still have $6,000 to do whatever you want with a month. I don't know. I might look at some of that and think about spending it.
Yeah, maybe it's time to go have a little fun after all this hard work you've been putting in. No, I think congratulations on your new home. Congratulations on doing so well. And I think that you're in a good position, and whatever choice you make is going to be a good one. So there are situations where it's clearly better to invest or clearly better to pay down debt. So if your debt is if you have credit card debt at 19%, you should be paying that off like a house on fire. If you have a mortgage rate at 2.5% and you haven't maxed out your retirement accounts, then you should be maxing out your retirement accounts and investing. This person, I think, is somewhere in the middle. And where exactly that spot for you is, where you'll make more money with one versus the other, is highly individual. And you have to sort of do some math. You have to figure out how much interest you're paying. If you're taking this, if you are itemizing your deductions, figuring out what kind of tax benefit you're getting. Although the tax benefit alone is not a reason to keep a mortgage. And this is something I've said before, and I kind of harp on it because it drives me bananas. There are even some financial advisors who say, keep your mortgage because of the tax write-off. A tax write-off is not free money. It's just a discount on money you're paying. So you pay less in taxes, but you're still paying the same amount to the bank. So that by itself is not a reason to keep a mortgage. There are downsides to paying a mortgage. You're less liquid. You essentially have... you're losing diversity because you've got more of your equity in one piece of real estate. But there are upsides too. You save a ton in interest. You have more security because you own your home outright. And you might just be happier paying off your mortgage, or it might be more in line with your values to not have a mortgage. So I think, again, either way, I think this person is going to do just fine. Well, what do you think?
Well, I agree they're going to do just fine. I mean, they're maxing everything out. They got $6,000 left over a month. Of course, they're going to be fine. And I think the advice you give is kind of the standard advice. I mean, that's what I've been telling people for years. Figure it out. How do you feel about debt? What are the interest rates? What are your alternative investments? But this is a mortgage at 7.8%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a heck of a guaranteed return on an investment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go put your money in a money market fund right now. You pick the best money market fund out there and you might make 5.3% right now. That's the best guaranteed investment you can get. This person's taken the standard deductions, so that interest is not helping them on their taxes in any way, shape, or form. They are truly after tax paying 7.8%. That's really attractive to me. I mean, I would probably still max out the HSA and the 401k and all those tax protected accounts. But I don't think I'd build a taxable account if I had a 7.8% debt. I think all that extra money, that $6,000 a month, would go toward it. And I'll bet, they don't say how expensive their house is, but I'll bet that mortgage is gone in 5 years. If you're throwing $6,000 a month at it, it wouldn't surprise me if it's gone in 5 or 7, maybe 10 years at the most. It's just going to be paid off so fast. I mean, where else are you going to get almost an 8% return? Bonds aren't going to give it to you. A lot of people think the long-term return on stocks is only 7 or 8%. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's what a lot of people believe. And if you got to take a bunch of risk to make even 9 or 10%, or you can get 8% guaranteed. I don't know. I find that pretty attractive.
So at what point would you suggest someone not pay down their mortgage and invest? Is it really, do you go off of the really safe investments like T-bills, or do you look more at the stock market investing? What's your cutoff?
I don't know. I mean, part of it is there's a lot of value in a tax protected account, not only from taxes, there's also those estate planning, those asset protection benefits down the road. And so I feel a little bit differently if you're investing in a tax protected account. In this case, it's a taxable account versus paying off the mortgage. And I think that's a much harder case to make for investing. Obviously, if you got a mortgage or a student loan at 2% and you can make 5% in a money market fund, I'm not going to criticize that person for carrying their debt for a while. Right? That's a no-brainer. And obviously, if you've got 30% credit card debt, that's a no-brainer to pay that off. In the middle, it's a little bit more of a debate. But for me, man, you can do better than you can get with bonds and cash by paying down that mortgage. It makes you wonder, should you have bonds or cash in your portfolio at all? Or should
Hmm.
the money that you would be putting into that go toward the mortgage? In some
Hmm.
ways, a loan is functions as a negative bond in your portfolio. And so you got to wonder when those rates get as high as 7.8%. I think we're going to be seeing more of that
Hmm.
based on what the Fed's talking about. We may see another quarter point or half point interest rate rise in 2023.
Hmm.
So I don't know. You start getting up there at 6, 7, 8, 9%. I think I'd pay off the debt. I'm a little bit debt averse compared to most people too, but that's pretty attractive to me.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I understand that, and I think the math certainly makes sense. Um, I'm not entirely debt averse when it's low rate debt, but yeah, this is getting up there. Um, and this person also, I think, has room to do both. You could make an argument for paying down the mortgage earlier. Of course, you have to make sure you don't have a prepayment penalty on your mortgage. Pay down the mortgage faster, and invest. Maybe it depends on your. My answer to a lot of these questions is, what does your financial plan say? So, what's your asset allocation? Are you enough in bonds? Are you enough in stocks? Um, so really go back to that, and it often kind of answers that question for you. Um, but as long as this person is investing in accordance with their financial plan, then I think there's some room for there to stuff a little extra in a taxable account. I think there's a lot of good answers here.
Yeah. And if you really can't decide, and a lot of people can't decide, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard decision. They're afraid of regretting what they chose. You can split the difference. That means
Yeah.
you're going to do the wrong, quote unquote, wrong thing with half of it, but it also means you're going to do the right thing with half of it. So
Yeah.
if that helps you, I've got a partner that he splits his retirement account contributions 50% Roth, 50% tax deferred. He knows one of them's wrong, but he doesn't care. He's like, I know I'm doing the right thing with half of it, and that's
Yeah.
good enough for him. And maybe you're one of those people that, that'll help you to avoid regret down the line. And it's perfectly
Yeah.
fine.
It is also perfectly fine to pay off a mortgage just because you hate having a mortgage. If it makes you feel better, if it's in line with your values, it's fine to pay it off, even if it's at a lower interest rate. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being debt free. It's a great place to be, actually.
Part of the reason we paid ours off, and ours was 2.75% when we paid it off. Granted, you could only make 1% in a savings account. You could only make
Hmm.
0.25% in a money market account at the time. But we paid it off because I felt like we were borrowing money to do all the frivolous stuff we were doing.
Hmm.
We bought a car, we went on vacation. It felt like we were borrowing at 2.75% to do that.
Hmm.
I would be okay borrowing at 2.75% for a necessity or even, inexpensive luxury, but not for, the stuff we were spending money on. That just didn't sit right with me. And since money's fungible, we ended up paying it off.
It's true, and a lot of people who wouldn't dream of carrying a credit card balance are okay with having a high interest rate mortgage. And it's really the same thing. It's just debt. It's just debt that you owe. So that makes a lot of sense to me. We still have a mortgage on our place. We owe about 140,000, but our interest rate is 2%. So we're keeping the mortgage for now and investing the rest, and that makes sense for us. We can put it in our local bank in a CD and make double that. So but I agree with you about the importance of paying down debt, and the math with this situation does kind of lean that way. The 7.8% return on your investment is a great return.
The question comes up a lot with regards to whether to use a down payment or not, too.
Hmm.
Do you save it up or do you use that money to invest? And obviously, getting to 20% down payment gives you some benefits. One, if you want to sell the house,
Hmm.
if it's gone down in value, it provides you a little bit of safety that way. You don't have to bring money to the table to get out of the house.
Hmm.
It also helps you avoid private mortgage insurance. That's assuming you didn't do a physician mortgage for those who put down less than 20%. But it's a little bit of the same debate, isn't it? Whether to use that money for a down payment or whether to leave it invested.
Yeah, I'm so risk averse. I'm so traditional in a lot of ways when I look at money, that the thought of a no down payment mortgage makes me really nervous for no really good reason. I'm sure someone could come up with lots of reasons why I'm wrong, but that's just where I come from.
Well, some people want to down even more than 20%.
Hmm.
And it's a little bit of the same question. Do you wait to buy so you can come up with 30% or 40% or 50% or whatever?
Hmm.
Or do you, get in case it starts appreciating like crazy?
Well, I think now we're back to the question of when do you buy, which is when it's right for you. Um, and I don't mean to take us totally off track here. But anyway, I think my answer to this person is, again, they're doing great, and there's not a wrong answer here, but it certainly makes sense to at least partially pay down this mortgage at this interest rate.
If you knew that your interest rate was going to be 7.8%, would that
Hmm.
give you a pause to go, well, maybe I'm going to save up for another year and put down 35% instead of 20%?
Depends on the price of the house, depends on my income, depends on how much I was stretching to buy it. I don't think there's an easy answer to that question. I think I'd have to sit down and do some math.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer for sure.
Yeah. So it's a very vague answer.
Yeah. I'm sorry all you guys are dealing with this issue. I'll tell you what, one of the best things about being debt free, and we've been debt free since 2017, is
Mm-hmm.
this is something I no longer have to deal with.
That's
It's
great.
wonderful to never have this debate with myself, never talk to my wife about it, never have this issue. I bought a truck last month, and you know what? We didn't even think about going to get a loan for it. We paid cash for it, and we just never have this debate anymore. And it frees up at least a little bit of mental bandwidth, and that's kind of a nice side benefit of being debt free, I think.
That really is. We hit a milestone recently when we sold our house in Maine. We didn't have to buy a new place. We sold our old place, and we put a big chunk of money in the bank. And it is amazing the difference it makes psychologically and emotionally. Just everything else seems like less of a big deal. It's really nice.
It's a nice side benefit of wealth in
It
general and cash in particular, I think.
it really is. It's pretty amazing.
The hosts of The White Coat Investor are not licensed accountants, attorneys, or financial advisors. This podcast is for your entertainment and information only. It should not be considered professional or personalized financial advice. You should consult the appropriate professional for specific advice relating to your situation.